Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Morning Brief with your hosts, myself, Jimmy Song, and we are being joined by a brand new co-host, Leah Wald, and I'll give it over to her.
Hello, thanks for having me this morning. I am very excited. It's nice to meet all of you and be on the show. So back to you, Tom.
All right, nope, keep going, jump right into it, lead us into the stories, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. Our first story, we're going to talk about Circle buying Polonius. I'm going to pull up the story as they begin talking.
All right, so yeah, so Circle is backed by Goldman, and this is what do you think, Jimmy? I mean, this is a little weird to me.
Well, apparently this has been in the works for a while, and part of why Polonius stopped accepting new users and things like that. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Consolidation was, sort of becoming bigger was always in the cards for a lot of these, and it's normal. Like a lot of this happens with financial institutions all the time. The question here is how much synergy is there between Circle and Polonius? Are they going to allow sort of like altcoin trading on Circle now with their app? For a while there, they were just more or less out of Bitcoin. They stopped allowing you to buy Bitcoin through their app and things like that, and they were positioning themselves more as a competitor to Venmo. But now that they've bought Polonius, what's going to happen? What are they trying to do? So curious about their direction. Obviously, Goldman Sachs is an investor. There are a lot of other investors as well, and they're all sort of curious about it. I am, however, somewhat encouraged because Polonius has always sort of been this, nobody really knows that much about them, kind of, shady kind of altcoin exchange kind of thing. By being acquired by Circle, that means that they've at least passed their due diligence checks and things like that. So, there's at least some possibility that they're not a scam.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Leah, you want to bring the screen share back? I don't know why it disappeared.
Sure.
And yeah, we're still working out the kinks because we're both logged in as myself. So I actually don't know who's in control of the main screen right now. All right. So this is really weird to me. Like, I don't understand. I mean, like you said, Jimmy, Circle got out of Bitcoin transactions. They were only doing it on the back end. I don't know why they want the liability of an anonymous altcoin exchange where 12-year-olds are actively trading, unlicensed, unregistered securities, especially when Goldman is one of your investors.
Well, so, they make a lot of money, Tone. I mean, like people have done like just you can know exactly how much they're making.
No, I mean, I understand that, but like WorldCom and Enron also made a lot of money, right? Like that doesn't.
No,
I don't. Fact that no matter how big your company is, you can go down for doing stupid stuff. Not to mention the whole Tether liability.
Tether liability is more on Bitfinex, no?
It's more on Bitfinex. Well, the legal liability is on Bitfinex, but if Tether goes under, it can bring down your Polonius.
Yeah, because their Tether balance would nullify.
Correct, because Polonius could get stuck holding the bag of Tether. Because if Tether goes down.
Yeah, they could. But they've made so much money. I think I don't know how they're capitalizing this thing.
Okay, so I understand why Polonius wants to get sold to Circle, right? I'm talking why does Circle want to buy Polonius, right? Like they made a lot of money and it's time for them to get out. So they're more than willing to sell their company over.
No, I mean, but there's a lot of revenue streams in an altcoin exchange. You can have listing fees and things like that, and they're one of the top ones. And you were saying that it's like anonymous people. They actually have pretty stringent AML KYC requirements. So if you're a US-based customer, you have to upload your driver's license and all that stuff to get anything more than
only if you're withdrawing more than $2,000 a day.
Yeah. So under 2,000, it's I think that's under the KYC limit, so it's totally fine. So I don't know if there's really any legal liability there. Like I said, if you're backed by Goldman and they went through the due diligence, and I know this has been in the works for a very long time, the fact that they passed due diligence tells me that they figured out that there isn't that much liability to allowing people to withdraw $2,000. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
All right. So the next story we're going to get into is the Wyoming House approving utility token securities exemptions bill, which is pretty funny. Tone, what do you think about this?
Again, like this story makes absolutely no sense to me. Okay, so it makes sense from the Wyoming perspective, right? Like people are taking this story way out of proportion. First of all, security law is federal law. It's not state law. It's totally irrelevant whether Wyoming thinks your token is or isn't a security. It's completely irrelevant. Like Wyoming isn't going to arrest you for unlicensed registered security. Maybe New York is like the only state that kind of cares about this stuff, right? Mostly because a lot of the federal jurisdiction is based out of New York. So like my LLC is out of Wyoming, right? This doesn't mean that my LLC is now gonna go and start creating, a token. So again, people are blowing the story way out of proportion. All this means is it's almost like marijuana, but not really, right? Like marijuana is starting to become legal statewide, but still illegal federally. But you were always at risk of getting arrested by your local law enforcement for smoking weed, selling weed, whatever, right? So when your state legalizes marijuana, you're like, okay, great. So that means that the cop down the street is not going to arrest me. But if that cop is an FBI agent, he can still actually arrest me. When it comes to security laws, your local cop wasn't going to arrest you anyway for the security law. It's still going to go to FBI and federal jurisdictions. So this actually changes absolutely nothing, in my opinion, when it comes to securities. So people are going to blow this story way out of proportion. I actually don't think it means anything because your ICO, unless Wyoming is planning to, leave the United States and Wyoming plans to be its own country with a non-extraditionary treaty for people that the U.S. Security Office tries to arrest, I don't see this really change anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leah.
Sorry. I think that's really interesting. Jimmy, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to disagree with Tone a little bit because the law was passed in part because a lot of people in Wyoming couldn't trade crypto. And a lot of exchanges like Coinbase and Gemini, they didn't operate in Wyoming because of the restrictive laws that they had. This actually clears the way for the Coinbases and Geminis and Itbits and all of these exchanges that are based in the US to actually allow customers from Wyoming. Not to say that Wyoming is a very big state, but for the people that were there, it was very, very annoying because basically these companies would say, okay, well, there's too much liability for us if we do allow customers from this particular state. I think they're one of 4 states where they have these kinds of things. So the fact that this got passed is a very good thing in the sense that, very practically speaking, as a customer, if you live in Wyoming, well, now you can go and trade, crypto without like these companies.
They should have been like they should have been like Wyoming should have just said nothing. Like they like New York passed that dumb law criminalizing the use of Bitcoin in New York. Like Wyoming should have said nothing. And if they say nothing, then people can still do it. They could have just said, "Hey, not our problem. Let the feds deal with it."
So they already had some laws in the books that they more or less had to override with this bill that would have criminalized it or something like that. So
right. So you put stupid laws on the books, and then instead of removing those stupid laws, you pass new laws to remove those laws, right?
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what you have to do, right? Like America is this weird amalgamation of like state and federal law, like you said. And the fact that you have to get a money transmitter license in like each state or something like that to be able to operate there, that makes it extremely difficult. And this is part of why Coinbase has such a lead that it does, is because for the last 4 years, this is what they've been like. We make fun of them because, you know, their technology isn't that great or whatever, but they've been spending the last 4 years getting licenses in the right places and getting banking agreements and all that stuff. That's where they focus most of their time, is making sure that, you know, they can operate out of Texas or Florida or Mississippi or whatever, so that they don't have legal liabilities associated with that. This sort of clears the way, makes it a lot easier for people to, you know, buy and sell Bitcoin and other cryptos from Wyoming. Hopefully other states follow suit. I'd love to see more exchanges, for example, based out of Wyoming. As a result, but we'll see. I have suspect that a lot of these lawmakers have no idea what they passed or whatever, but we'll see.
All right, cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. Guys, give Leah a break. She's new to this, but she'll do great. Oh, and hey, Leah, since I can't seem to get your attention on Telegram, make sure you have the internal chat open inside Google Hangouts, because that's where we're texting comments.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, everybody. Learning curve this morning. So this is an exciting one. Bitcoin Core version 0.16 is available. Jimmy?
Yeah, so very exciting release. The main thing that I think it brings is that native SegWit Bec32 addresses are now available on command line and things like that. I don't think it's quite in the Qt wallet yet. But this is a good first step. And they did the same thing with nested SegWit or P2SH, P2WPK. If you don't know what that means, don't worry too much. But it's the SegWit addresses that you might know already. It's the ones that start with a 3. Those have been in the core wallet only on command line. Now they're in the Qt wallet. Also, the BIP 176 thing that I wrote a while back. That's now incorporated into the wallet. So you can either specify as micro Bitcoin or bits, and that's sort of available in the GUI now. A bunch of other optimizations and things to make it a lot smoother. But yeah, I mean, great release. Happy that it's out. They had 4 release candidates. You know, tons and tons of contributors. So thank you to all of the developers that worked on this, all the people that tested this, all the people that documented this. It's a very large team effort, and congrats to everybody that was involved.
Yeah. Anything else in that? Like what are the highlights? Like what's the main thing? Because I remember 0.15 was huge because it kind of cut off a lot of like the like support for all of this big block stuff. But what else is so big in 0.16?
Well, that they did some optimizations. Let me look at the email. Actually, Leah, can you scroll down a little bit? So you have the wallet changes. Yeah. Yeah, obviously the SegWit wallet. Yeah, Bec32 addresses BIP 173. HD wallets by default. So that so legacy was all sort of like if you created wallets before a certain version, they were sort of stored on a per key basis or 100 keys at a time. Now it's HD by default. Replaced by fee is default in the GUI. Yeah, wallet directory configuration, GCC bump to 4.8. Prune node. So now there's a BIP 159. You can run prune nodes, and you'll be able to sort of connect to only prune nodes. And what that helps with is sort of disk space. So one of the big complaints about Bitcoin is that you need to have like 200 gigabytes of disk space in order to run Bitcoin full node. That's actually not true. You can run a prune node that only stores the UTXO set, and if you do that, then you have then it ends up being only like 10 gigabytes, which is significantly less. And that may become like sort of the future. You just you won't have the history necessarily of every transaction, but you'll have the important parts to be able to validate every transaction coming in. So that's sort of on its way. SHA-256 assembly enabled by default. There's like a chip instruction that's in a lot of CPUs now called SSE4, which allows like speed up of SHA-256 checks. This should cause a speed up in the initial download. GUI changes, bits from BIP 176, like I said. Searching by transaction ID is there. RPC, a bunch of RPC commands, validate address improvements. I mean, there's, this is just sort of like the highlights, believe it or not, like the release notes. There's a ton of other. Oh yeah, they got rid of get info. They changed it to 4 different commands on RPC. Tons of other stuff. Lots of different things. If you look at the change log, you can see like how much stuff there is, and this is why Bitcoin Core is the gold standard. There's just a lot of stuff in here, and all of this has been reviewed by lots of people, tested by lots of people, and it's really good stuff.
All right, moving on. Coinbase introduces full SegWit support. Just came out. Tone?
Well, again, like to me, this is Coinbase was supposed to do this like 9 months ago, right? So I'm not praising them too much here. It's about time. It's one of the reasons why our mempool is fairly empty now, which is great. But yeah, like I'm not going to praise them too much. I mean, they were supposed to do this a long time ago. Like I'm still mad at Coinbase for, being against SegWit for so long. And it just goes to show you that I don't think people working there are all that bright. I'll continue to say it. Jimmy, what's your opinion? I'm still very aggravated by Coinbase, and I have been for the last 4 years.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I've said this before about Coinbase. They're now like kind of a mature company, right? Like 4 or 5 years old. And that means that their code base is probably suffering significantly from bit rot. And this happens to every company. You have a lot of customers and you don't want to break what's there. So you're very careful about any changes that you make. Next thing you know, you have like spaghetti code all over the place, and it's very hard to add new features. I suspect that's why it took so long. But also, I know that they've been like just fighting fires for the last 6 months. The user growth in that company has been just so crazy that they just can't keep up with the scale. And you've noticed this when, like the site would be down or things would be slow, or they try to launch something with Bitcoin Cash and it wouldn't work right away and stuff like that. The fact that they got it in, I'm happy about. Another part of this story that maybe we're not touching on is that Bitfinex also started supporting SegWit in the past week, and the combination of those two has significantly lowered fees and the mempool in general. And you could, it's like so obvious that exchanges and these big companies take up such a large part of the block space that even a small optimization. Well, this isn't a small optimization. This is actually a fairly significant optimization. But any optimization ends up like affecting the entire fee economy fairly significantly, and we can see that happening right now. As more companies start adopting new technologies like Lightning Network and things like that, I think we can sort of expect this sort of adoption curve. I mean, people were, it's kind of funny how everything's like sort of reversed. Like back in December when like fees were really high, a lot of the Bitcoin Cash people were like, you guys are no good because fees are too high. And the Bitcoin Core people were like, hey, this is just the fee market working. And now that it's low, it's, Bitcoin Core people and Bitcoin supporters are more or less like, hey, we're doing great now. See, like it just was like these big companies. And the Bitcoin Cash people are like, no, it's not. It's people moving over to us or whatever. So, you can rationalize any side of the argument that you want. The fact is that, this is normal sort of for any technology adoption. And the number of transactions is going to be sensitive to like big players like Coinbase and, Bitfinex and things like that.
I mean, like that's not even the one that bothers me. The one that bothers me is all those guys screaming how Blockstream is like destroying everything about Bitcoin. And now that prominent people have left Blockstream, they're all saying how, oh my God, Blockstream is falling apart. Bitcoin doesn't know what it's doing. Look at Blockstream. They're all leaving. like that one bothers me even more, right?
Yeah,
It's the same people.
This is why I don't follow politics, right? Like, because anytime anything happens, they'll spin it in a way that it's bad for the other side, and it does. And it does. You can predict exactly what they're going to say. So why bother like listening to people that you already know what they're going to say? If it's completely predictable, then it's not worthwhile. So I don't know. I like ideas. I like interesting things, and like those arguments are not new ideas, and they are not interesting. So that's why I don't really think that they're really all that useful.
All right, Jimmy, should we go to the weather report?
Sure.
All right.
Wow. So take a look at the mempool in the last month. You can clearly
I think
see
that's a 3 month. I think that's a 3 month look.
Yeah. So the look in particular at the last month, since about January 24th, it has just come down significantly. And there were you can see sort of like the sudden uptrends, like in the like January 17th and like 20th or something like that. There were like, and maybe even like January 10th, you could see those spikes, and it's come down significantly. Probably in part due to like Coinbase and Bitfinex adopting SegWit, and possibly like spam transactions being removed. But more or less, you can get transactions in for like 2 Satoshi per byte, which is insanely low. It's like 10 cents or something like that. And
yeah, I mean, I'm still, I don't know, I'm still nervous. Like I was putting in a couple of transactions the other day. They were like heavy data transactions, and because I had a lot of inputs. I was using like 12 Satoshis per byte. And I was like, next block. I'm like, man, I'm really overpaying with these $3 fees. But they were massive. Like,
yeah. So right now is a great time to consolidate your UTXO. So, it does remove some of your privacy, because if you have multiple outputs that you're combining into one, that's just, they're all linked together now. But right now is the time to do it. If you have lots of like disparate, UTXOs, like, hundreds of them or something like that, combine them right now, right? Like, these are cheap. You can get them in really, really easily. So even over the weekend, I was looking at CoinDance. I don't know if you had that up, Leah, but over the weekend, there were blocks that were not full, not because the miners were being malicious, but because there were no transactions in the mempool. So it was like 500 kilobytes, because they didn't have any transactions to put in. So they just sort of left that part empty. And this is kind of what happens when, like the difference between like having high fees and low fees can be like this, because it's so sensitive to large players that do like sort of add a lot of transactions to the mempool. And that's kind of what happens.
well, I have CoinDance up, so we can just go take a look at
Go to the blocks.
where are the
Blocks, the yellow. Left. Go to the left. Yeah, there.
Okay, orange. Nice. Okay.
Go down
on the other side.
Yeah, go down. Okay, so it's all 1 megabyte, but go down to like 8 hours ago or so.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all tiny because
right there, right? Because the mempool was empty.
Yeah, they didn't have anything to mine, and this happens. This used to happen a lot on the weekend, like a year ago. Was that you could get transactions in for very cheap over the weekend because there just isn't as much activity, which kind of speaks to the fact that a lot of economic activity happens during the week, but also because like the mempool just like cleared and there were no more. And that's kind of what we have right now. You just needed to be a little bit patient, and all those people that were saying gloom and doom, like transactions have $30 fees or whatever. It's always been temporary. Like if you need something urgently, yeah, you're gonna pay that. But if you need something that's a little bit less urgent, that's that you could wait on, you could always sort of get it in for a lot cheaper than the going rate. And there are better fee estimators that are being made right now. A lot of them based on the current mempool statistics instead of like the historical one that Bitcoin Core uses. that caused people to pay a lot more, like right around when it was dropping, which wasn't great. You don't want to pay more fees than you have to. So, this is the market at work. I'd like to see more innovation here.
Hey man, one last question for you, Jimmy. Does it feel to you like in the atmosphere that more and more people are just ignoring Bcash and all these big blocks and all these other forks?
The Bitcoin hard forks have dropped precipitously in the last month or so. So Bitcoin Diamond, Super Bitcoin, Bitcoin X, Bitcoin 2X, they've all dropped like 80-90%. So,
and this new privacy one that's supposed to come out, I don't even know when. I don't care.
It's in 2 days. It's by Red Creighton. He's
that
taking
guy again? Oh my god, wow.
So what he did
with the 12-year-old, that's completely clueless.
So he basically took Zcash and removed the dev subsidy. So there's no dev subsidy, and he called it Z Classic. It wasn't getting as much traction, so he's now adding the Bitcoin UTXO set to Z Classic and calling it Bitcoin Private. That's more or less what it is.
Yeah, he's all about the hard forks. That's all he does, and like no one listens to him. Okay.
Well, I mean, I like the fact that he removed the dev subsidy from Zcash, but then again, then what are the Zcash developers going to do? They're not going to work on Z Classic, so. So now he's getting more publicity for it with Bitcoin Private. We'll see exactly how that goes, but that's where we are right now.
All right, Tone. I think everybody's really interested in price, given that it's up this morning. Is this a good sign?
I know. Honestly, I have no idea. I was so tired yesterday after the interview with Tyler and nice Q. So Tyler's YouTube channel, along with Leah, is the Hyperwave YouTube channel. And I had an interview with Tyler yesterday. So kind of leading us into also utilizing Leah to be our co-host here to kind of make it much easier instead of like Jimmy and I sharing the screens, and also giving us some good other perspectives on a lot of these stories. And so I haven't even had a chance to look at the price of Bitcoin at all. So let's go and take a look right now and see what's going on. I'll probably make this a little bit short. And then, this is from last night, actually, when we were analyzing GBTC and how it relates to the hyperwave theories. But here's the price of Bitcoin. Again, this is applying the hyperwave stuff to Bitcoin. So I'll probably be deleting these lines. But for now, they're not really in my way, so I'll keep them there. Here's the weekly chart of Bitcoin. This looks very, very promising. I'm going to turn on the time indicator. And as I expected, this week was most likely going to be a price flip. Now, we have to realize this. Today is the first day of the price flip. So, the week still has 6 more days to go. It did not start off very promising. We did have a little bounce at the very end of the week. Remember what I was saying, the closer the week was to close to the bottom of the candle, the more dangerous it was going to be for this week. We pulled off a little bit late Sunday night, and that helped. And now we're trending up. So for this week, what you're looking for is a new weekly high close. We need to close this week above the high of 2 weeks ago. So you really want to close above 10,500 in order to be pretty optimistic for next week. And here's the best part. If we close this week near the top of the price, next week will be a green 2 trading above a green 1, which would finally give us another bullish entry on long-term scale. The last time it happened was actually in a bad area, but the prior time it happened was all the way back in the $4,500 range. So if we can get a similar condition to what we had back in October for the 4,500 entry that drove us all the way to 20K, that can happen again next week. So these next 2 weeks are going to be huge for Bitcoin, as we explained in last night's On the Record podcast. Here's the daily chart. Now, the daily chart was looking very bearish 24 hours ago, and we were on a 5 of 9. We now have flipped, The 5 candle was a bit of a reversal candle, not a perfect reversal candle, but a reversal candle. It happened in the middle of nowhere. It gave you this low that was a little difficult to time, which is exactly how markets bottom. Now, the amount of resistance is kind of massive. The 50-day moving average is coming down. I will not be bullish Bitcoin right now. This current price of Bitcoin, the moment it went above the yesterday's high and swung us into a price flip of a green one on this indicator, that basically put all of my short ideas into neutral mode and into cash mode. However, until Bitcoin can get above the 50-day moving average, I am not holding my breath that this is a significant move to new all-time highs, right? I mean, look at the amount of resistance. You have to get past the 50-day moving average. You have to get past the, I believe this is the 128-day moving average, and you have to get back above this resistance. Now, I will say that just like multiple bounces of support make support weaker, this resistance cluster of 11,300 is now significantly weaker resistance than it was a week ago on the 20th of February when it completely rejected the price and dropped us about $3,000. If we can get back to 11,300, this resistance will be significantly weaker, and the chances of this resistance rejecting us for the second time is significantly smaller. So if we can get back to 11,300, I become very optimistic that we are going to go back to 13,000. Okay, so it works the same in both directions. Here's the 4-hour chart. Obviously, my expectation of the 4-hour chart bottoming in the $9,000 range did not materialize. We've now gone up, and look, we're being rejected by the double resistance cluster on the 4-hour between the 50-period moving average and the Fibonacci line in the vicinity of 10,300. This is pretty standard right now, and we would need to get up above this level. Like, until we can close on 4-hour basis above 10,500, I am not rushing into any bullish ideas yet. To me, this is still a dead cat bounce, and there's no bullish trades to take on yet. Okay, I would love to see it once I start seeing closes above 10,400. I can then have my eye on the previous rejection at 11,800, and if we can get there, the double top rule comes into play. This also will get all of the premature drawers of the cup and handle pattern all riled up, because yes, if we can get back to the $11,500 range, the cup and handle pattern looks absolutely beautiful, and that sets us up for like a $6,000 rise to the upside. So let's see if we can make it. But right now, you are sitting at 4-hour rejection. Now, here's the daily chart. The hourly chart. The hourly chart went from 9 to 9 very nicely. This long trade could have been timed off of this 9 last night, 225 at 11 p.m. Yesterday morning at 11 a.m. And then for a profit taking potential shorting last night at 2100 hours, which is that 9 p.m. I think that's 9 p.m. And now we've gone up. So if you were trading the 1-hour chart, you had a couple of bullish entries. One of them was when the 2 started trading above the 1, and the other one is when you broke the setup trend line a little bit later. So your bullish entries could have taken place early this morning. One of them with a 2 trading above a 1 at a price of 9,700. Another one breaking the setup trend line at 9,800. You are now on an hourly 6 of 9, coming into the 200 period moving average. So this is not the time to take on bullish trades. If you missed it, you missed it. The volume is really nice, and this is the time to look for potential profit taking of those bullish trades based on the 1 hour chart. I might do another video later tonight, focus a little more on the markets, do some Q&A. Other than that, just my usual disclaimers: learn trading, utilize my website, libertylifetrail.com. And I'll let Jimmy do his announcements right after. So check that out. What I just discussed is in section 6. We will go more into it with your Q&A perhaps later today. If not, this show will evolve in the morning. We'll try and make it better. We'll try and make it perfect. Being a live YouTuber is not easy, guys. If the free stuff is not enough, please check out the consulting section. And if you look at my trading seminar section, I have added a bunch of seminars I plan to do. There will be 5 weeks in a row. Jimmy, I'm coming to your town of Austin. I'll be there teaching my seminar on April 14th. I've also added Vancouver, March 31st. There's also links for my seminars in Russia, Moscow, and Kiev. But please be aware that they will be in Russian. If you do not speak Russian, you will be extremely disappointed because you will have absolutely no idea what we're saying, okay? The 2 seminars in Moscow and Kiev will be done in Russian, and then the rest will be in English. Vancouver, San Fran, Austin, Toronto, and Miami. Now, I am maybe a week or 2 away from launching a sign-up website to make my life easier, because I have a feeling I'm about to get like 300 emails about all of these venues. So please take it easy. There'll be plenty of time to sign up. I have not even figured out the capacity, but sign up website is coming to make everything easier. And on that note, Jimmy, any you want to make any announcements? Where are you traveling to? What seminars are you doing?
Yeah, so I have Tampa Programming Blockchain Thursday and Friday of this week. I also have Hong Kong March 22nd and 23rd.
Are they sold out, or you still have room?
I still have room for Hong Kong and Seoul. Tampa is pretty much sold out. I guess I could take one if people are really, really interested. But yeah, there's Hong Kong March 22nd, 23rd, Seoul March 26th and 27th. And then after that, I'm not sure, but I think San Francisco is probably going to be the one after that. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to that, to the Austin one, Tone. That'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, we got lots of stuff to do, obviously.
I'll save you a seat free up a Saturday.
We'll see. We'll see. I might have to spend some time with my family. All right, Leah.
Yeah, Tron and Jimmy, thanks so much for having me on today. Everyone, thanks for understanding the learning curve, and hope to see you again tomorrow.
All right, cool. Talk to you all later.
This song is done.